church. Well, the sun is out today, so I'm recording my devotional here in the garden. Hope you're really well, and hope this encourages your heart today. So I'm just actually going to use this time as a bit of a throwback to a message that I preached a few weeks back called How is Your Peace? It is so important that we know peace in these times, in these days that we're living in. So I'm just going to actually remind us of this really important principle today. So just a few reminders of what we discovered together on this subject a few weeks back. The first was this: we know peace when we are in relationship with God. So I don't know, for those of you watching, whether you do have a relationship with Jesus, but it is the way to peace in our lives. It tells us in Isaiah, he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. It is through Jesus, through his sacrifice, that we know peace, the peace of God in every situation in our lives. So I want to encourage you today, if you don't have that relationship with God, to talk to us about it, and we can advise you about that and encourage you in that and on that journey of faith, which would be amazing. The second one was this: follow God's ways for your life. Not always an easy thing to do. We see in the Bible that there's a real strong principle of actually when we follow God's ways and his principles and his guidelines for our lives, that we know peace. It says in Isaiah 48, if only you had paid attention to my commands, your peace would have been like a river, your well-being like the waves of the sea. You know, when we follow God's ways for our lives, it brings health, it brings life, it brings good things into our lives, it brings peace. So that's the second point. The third point was this: do not let your hearts be troubled. Jesus speaks these words, repeated these words to his disciples before he went to the cross. He said, do not let your hearts be troubled. Then he said a little bit later, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I don't give as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled. I don't know how you're feeling today and this week, whether you are feeling troubled, but maybe try and focus, instead of on those troubles, on the peace that God can bring in the midst of those troubles. So do not let your hearts be troubled today. The fourth one is this: it says in Isaiah 26, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. So your mind might be thinking about lots of different things today, lots of different problems and situations, but the Bible tells us we will know peace if we keep our mind fixed on the things of God. He will bring us peace as we choose to do that. The fifth one was this: trust in the Lord with all your heart. It says in Proverbs 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. If we trust in ourselves and our own abilities to solve every problem ourselves, then we feel the weight of that, we feel the stress of that. But trusting in the Lord with our lives and our problems and the things that we deal with really brings us a sense of peace, that he is in control, which leads me to the next one. Know his ways are higher than your ways. It tells us in Isaiah 55, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, and neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways. You know, we have our plans, don't we? We have our thoughts on how things are going to work out, how our lives are going to go, and you know, it's just brings us a sense of peace to know that God is in control, that his ways are higher than our ways, and that he will work all things together for our good, and that brings us a sense of peace. And lastly, do not be anxious about anything, but present your request to God. It tells us in Philippians that with prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. It actually encourages that praying gives us peace. You know, it offloads those burdens. We don't carry them anymore. We give them to God. And in doing that, we replace that worry with a sense of God's peace. So just want to remind you today, in everything that you're doing, however you're feeling, whatever you're dealing with this week, to know God's peace in your hearts and in your lives by following these principles, of really pressing into the gift of peace that God gives us, not focusing on your worries, not carrying those burdens yourself, but knowing that God is there, he cares for you, and he wants you to be at peace in all things and at all times. So God bless you, church. Have a wonderful week, and see you Sunday.